Talking about perk balance is very difficult. Mostly because if you guys remember, I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, but it's very difficult to talk about perk balance because you're never going to get 100% universal agreement, right? There's always going to be somebody who thinks that a weak perk is OP or an OP perk is weak or something like that. And even if they are objectively wrong, it's difficult to still have these conversations because a lot of times people will just flail into accusatory stuff like, oh, you're a survivor main, you're a killer main, you're a blank main, entitled and whiny, very obvious, and they'll find a way to throw an insult toward the devs in there somewhere because that's what they always fucking do. And it just becomes very, very obnoxious very quickly. And it's even difficult for higher content creators. I was watching Otz one day and he was talking about how he doesn't make videos about perks that are problematic or perks that need to be changed anymore because, and in his words, if the perk gets changed, then people blame him for the change. And if the perk doesn't get changed, then people are telling him that he's just overreacting. And he feels like he can't share his opinions on that kind of stuff anymore. And it sucks. It sucks to feel that way because I think at the end of the day, Otz is just like the rest of us commentators here on Dead by Daylight, right? He's just like the rest of us. He just happens to be literally 100 times more popular. You know what I mean? Like he's just like us, a guy sharing his opinion, and he gets more hate for it than everybody else does, which is ridiculous. And so when it comes to talking about, overpowered perks and things like that, it's something that I try to approach with caution. But we're gonna dive into it today. But first, we need to talk about OP perks in general. If you've been missing streams and want to see live gameplay, then go ahead and check out my YouTube channel, the Kaiservods, where I upload every game that I play in multi-hour compilations. We also have a collection of short compilations of clips from stream. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description. So it's super hard for me to talk about the history of OP perks because I wasn't there for most of them. The most OP point in history that I was there for was the Colubrine Eruption overcharge meta, where killer players of basically any killer could 3-gen hold every single map with a collection of the most obnoxious perks in the world. The big thing about that was mostly the result of Eruption, and I don't think that Colubrine and Overcharge should have been caught in the crosshairs there. Eruption itself was just way too fucking strong because when it triggered while you're working on a gen, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't heal, you couldn't cleanse, you couldn't repair. All you could do was unhook. You were incapacitated. And incapacitated is a very powerful status effect. It's the strongest status effect in the game, and that's why you don't see it be applied very often. And so that was the only nerf that really needed it. But then you had things. I also went through MFT, and I'm so sick of explaining this. MFT was overpowered. If you think it wasn't, you're just wrong. It was too fucking strong. So that was what I went through. But there was also a past where you had Undying, Ruin, old Dead Hard. I did go through one of the iterations of Dead Hard, but apparently it wasn't as overpowered as before. Decisive Strike, stuff like that. Those were all perks that give veteran Dead by Daylight players extreme PTSD because they're all like, oh, don't remind me of that. Don't remind me of the dark days. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's important to understand that perks that are OP on their own are a lot easier to balance around than perks that synergize well with others. Perk synergies are important to the game. There's a lot of talk among people about how to shift balancing philosophies, and a lot of people's what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of people's solution is to remove synergies, and I don't like that. For example, during the MFT meta, there were some people who were like, oh, if you just remove haste stacking, it's okay. No, it's not. First off, that's completely limiting creativity for no reason, and I've never liked that solution. And second off, MFT was a problem for the entire game, not just in the end game. But people were so focused on fucking MFT Hope allowing the survivors to run as fast as Huntress that they just that they just completely and utterly ignored how synergies are supposed to function and how synergies are a big part of this game. So what you have to do, instead of nerfing synergies, is find the problematic perk and nerf that. Again, this goes back to something like the Call of Brine Eruption Overcharge meta. The problem wasn't Call of Brine Overcharge Eruption. The problem was Eruption and how it prevented you from fixing the 9 billion regression. If you ran Overcharge, if only Eruption ever got nerfed and you just ran those 3 perks together, it would not be as bad. Because you could, especially back in those days, because you could just gen tap to remove the 9 billion points of regression. You know, the Eruption would kick off, you'd go, your aura would get revealed, you'd tap it, and then you'd stop the regression. But, you know, they ended up nerfing all 3 perks, and that just wasn't the call, in my opinion. So when it comes to the discussion of For the People Buckle Up, a lot of people like to think to themselves like, oh, what makes it so bad? What makes it, you know, because like a lot of people try to argue with me that it is not overpowered. It is 110% overpowered. For the People Buckle Up is a perk that removes all of your time investment. So you know how people like to say that Deliverance is overpowered because if the Deliverance procs and gets value, it removes the pressure for free? That is theoretically correct, right? Because yes, you remove the pressure for free, but there is still a hook state in place, right? There is still a way to, there's still pressure on the board. It's not the pressure you want, because you're no longer distracting 2 survivors, but it is pressure. That person is now 1 step closer to death. Flashlight saves are a good comparison to For the People Buckle Up, the more that I think about it, because flashlight saves do the same thing as For the People Buckle Up, just not as easily and just not as powerful. So when you're chasing a survivor, let's say all 3 survivors on gen. Let's say 2 survivors on gen, and 1 is hovering for a save. If you down that survivor and pick them up, and the one hovering comes over and does a flashlight save, the person you injured and downed is still available to down again. And they are not going to gain as much distance as For the People Buckle Up. Because in the same scenario, 2 people working on gen, you're chasing 1 and 1 guy's hovering for the pickup, you down the person before you even stop wiping your blade, that other hoverer runs in, For the People buckles up, and both of them now have endurance. If you wait out the endurance, they both get 10 extra seconds of pressure. And one of them, because you can't chase both, one of them is going to go back to a gen. If you try to hit both of them, they both get deep wounded, but again, you can only chase 1. And that hitting them still gives them distance that allows them to continue extending the chase. So all the time you spent in the chase previously, even if it was 10 seconds, is immediately undone, and you have to invest at least that same amount of time. Whereas something like a flashlight save that takes way more skill, way more accuracy, is something that you can undo the flashlight save much quicker because you only have 1 target to worry about, and the other person's probably still going to keep trying to hover to get the flashlight save for a second time because that's just how flashlight players are. So you're still taking the pressure off of 2. For the People Buckle Up allows them to undo all of the time investment you put into chasing that person. You don't get a hook state out of it. You don't get to immediately down them again. You don't get to chase them and down they'll probably make it to another loop. It's something that wastes a lot of time for very little effort and very low risk. And so these counter arguments that For the People Buckle Up is actually not overpowered because it takes 2 perk slots and one additional person isn't on gen is bad. The biggest way I can explain this is if people not being on gens was always good for you, just chasing 1 person for the entire match would always work. The excuse of, oh, well, that's 1 less person on a gen doesn't do anything. It doesn't solve anything, especially if people are spread out, right? especially if people are spread out. It does not do what you think it does, because otherwise chasing one singular person for the entire match would win you the game. But it doesn't, because that's other survivors are on gens. You don't have time to be focusing on the same person over and over again. And so what For the People Buckle Up does is it wastes your time investment, and then it forces you to make a decision. Do I continue chasing this person, or do I go after the person who did the combo? You usually choose whichever one's closer, and then you have to invest more time in chasing them. And you just shouldn't get that for free. My solution would be to make Buckle Up only give endurance to the person picked up. Some people have said that just makes it We're Gonna Live Forever. We're Gonna Live Forever only triggers in the end game. This would be for the full game. And it would make it to where you're actually trading with someone. So you are still saving somebody, but you're trading. You're giving up a piece of... You're giving up yourself in order to save someone else. It makes it into an altruistic anti-tunneling perk combo, as opposed to killer loses the chase for free combo. That's how I would do it. In conclusion, I think For the People Buckle Up does need to be addressed, because I'm kind of sick and tired of it. It's getting on my nerves. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm tired of getting, cool cross snipes with Billy, or fucking catching a survivor who's given me trouble all match, and they're just like, ha, I got you. Boop, 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 both up, and they're gone. And it's just like, oh, okay, I'll eat shit then, I guess. You know what I mean? Actually, I just thought of something. You know what would be cool? If Buckle Up only gave endurance to the survivor being picked up, but it also gave both survivors a speed boost. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, as always, I do not make these videos just to spout my opinions at you. I make them so I can hear your guys' opinions as well. So please let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, a great big special thank you to our channel members listed on screen now for all their additional support. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today and get cool perks like seeing videos early and merch discount codes, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.